Good evening, Shawnetta. Trying to get rid of my glare here. Hello, everyone. Let me get this camera situated. I'm in a different space, so the lighting is decent, but the positioning is horrible. Give me 1 minute to get my life right.
You're on mute, ma'am.
I don't know if that's better. I think I lost the good light moving this way.
Yeah, you need to be the other way.
Yeah, I had really good light, but then I had a glare coming through.
Oh,
Okay, so I moved to the other side of the room, and this one isn't. I think I got to move back.
yeah, you have to move back.
All right, I'll be back. Okay, how is that? I think that's better.
That's better. You were in the shadows before.
Yeah, that's better. And then I was too bright before, so I kind of, okay, perfect. Thank you, Charity. Yeah.
Yes, you can see her. You were like the form figure in the background.
Yeah, I know it wasn't good. The problem is I'm propped up with this, as much as I
no,
complain about my real space sometimes, it's nothing like being at home. Because
of
now I
course.
got to prop up this iPad because I feel like what I have is not going to be stable. Let me see. Okay. All right, that should do it.
Mhm.
Hey, y'all.
She's in it right now, guys. She's on it.
How is everyone doing? See, goodness.
See?
See?
You need the back. You need the back kind of
Problem is when
angle
you
thing.
prop it, see, when I prop it my regular way, so because it's in a case, but then it does that. So you can't like see me.
Oh, okay. So it's in your case. Got it. Okay.
So it does that triangle shape thing.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right, we're gonna go with this. It's gonna work out.
Yes, it is.
I feel like I'm okay.
Now you look like you got crazy eyes. You're now the glare.
Oh, because it's right there in my eye.
Right.
Hello.
Yeah. It looks like you have, Bitcoin eyes.
Jeez. Well, maybe that means we'll get some money this year.
Maybe. I don't know. Got the
Maybe.
laser beam eyes.
Oh, I see what you mean. I don't know
Mhm.
how to avoid that though.
Nope, I don't think so. It's just how the lights are.
Yeah, because if I move the iPad pad back some, that doesn't help it.
It's right above you. So you're just gonna have to make do. You're just gonna be sparkly.
Sorry, y'all. Sorry, we are not perfect, but I am
You
in.
don't need perfect.
Yeah, I'm. We will be. What is perfect? What actually is perfect?
Nothing. It doesn't
What
exist
is that word even a word?
because it's a state of being. It's just theoretical. That's all. You have to have theory to gauge everything else with, but there's no such thing.
There is no such thing. But I am in, as we wait for our guests to come, I'm in Airbnb, San Francisco. I remember I told you guys I was going to China to start sourcing some products. I leave this week and I'm spending a few days in San Francisco before that flight. And so I am super, super excited, anxious, all the things about this journey and what it's going to mean for us at 10K. Because I'm going to try my very best to stay on task and chronicle this trip for you guys so that anyone who's interested can duplicate it. That's going to be a little difficult for me because I am not a pick up the camera and film everything kind of girl, right? Typically, it's like the next day, I'm like, damn it, I should have filmed that. Like, I'm terrible about that. I'm terrible. And so I'm going to try to be better so that I could document as much as I can for you guys so that you can duplicate the process if you want to, right? So that part is exciting. Happy New Year again to everyone. We are back. We have took a few weeks off because of the way the holiday fell, right? They fell on Mondays. And so we wanted you to enjoy your holiday. We wanted to enjoy ours. And so we just decided to take the 2 weeks off. But we are back with a beautiful vengeance for 2024 and super excited about what this new season is going to bring for us at the 10K Project. And as we're waiting for our guest Ariana to join us, I'll talk a little bit about that. One of the things Talisha and I want to do is kind of circle back to some of the things we've learned over the last 3.5, almost 4 years now, right? We've talked about so many wealth building strategies. And what we wanted to do is jump in and do some of them, right? So a good example is, you guys know Tamika Young, the pallet lady, came and talked to us about buying pallets, right? And that was, maybe beginning or middle of last year, I think it was. We're going to buy pallets. So we're going to do some of these things that we've been teaching you about. We're going to do them in real time. We're going to take you through the journey, and hopefully that will spark something in you guys that didn't get sparked the first time when you learned about it, right? Seeing it being done versus hearing about it being done. We want to see if there's going to be a different activation within you. Those are some of the things we're going to do this year. So we're super, super excited about what 2024 is going to bring. But I am excited about tonight because we have an amazing guest who just joined us. And what she's going to be talking about is really, really important because Talisha, in the email that she just sent to you guys to remind you to come tonight, pulled up some stats, and it's astounding, right? More than 818,000 Americans currently reside in assisted living communities. 7 out of 10 people are going to require assisted living facilities in their lifetime, right? The demand is growing by an additional 1 million beds by 2024. So tonight's guest, when we talk about what some wealth building opportunities will be in 2024, this first session for 2024 is setting the tone for that. Ariana, thank you so much for joining us, my dear. I'm so, so excited to talk to you and to meet you and to hear about what you're doing. You came highly recommended by someone close to me that took one of your courses. And so I really, really wanted to get you on to talk to the community. We are the 10K Project. We are a wealth building community with entrepreneurs and investors. And we're always looking at the ways people are truly building wealth, right? And when we hear about or think about assisted living, I was told you were the lady I need to talk to. And so I don't
And
go
that
to
was
the
exactly how it was. It was
yeah, I go to the best in the business. And so thank you so much for carving out time for us. We are forever grateful anytime anyone spends time with us because we know you can't get that back. And we hope to make it worth your while. We are an exciting community of wealth builders. And we are just happy to have you. We were just talking about the demand that's out there, and I'm sure you'll talk even more about that. We're always talking about, don't sell Big Mama's house. And then sometimes people say, but I'm not interested in being a landlord, like the traditional landlord. And as I was thinking about you today, I was like, this is a solution for that. So still don't sell Big Mama's house, but here's something you can do with it. And so I'm excited to talk to you. Thank you again for joining us. I'm going to let you introduce yourself and give us your background and all of that cool stuff. And in the community, you guys know you can jump in, put any questions you have in real time for Ariana in the chat or put in the Q&A so we can keep track of them. And let's do it.
Yay. Well, I'm so glad to be here. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes,
ma'am.
You can hear me? Okay, good. If it starts to sound funny, let me know. I'm in a new studio. My husband built me this brand new studio. So it's like all new equipment and I'm testing it out and I'm a little bit out of my environment. But I'm glad to be here. Thank you so much for having me. You guys, you're doing great things. I am just blown away as I went through the YouTube and checked some things out. You guys are doing really great things and shining light on really cool businesses. And I was like, ooh, like that's cool. But I want to give a little bit of an intro. My name is Ariana Jay on these internet streets. My actual name is Ariana Jackson, and I own a 7-figure home and community-based agency serving individuals with developmental disabilities. I have assisted living, I have group homes, and I have community hub services, which essentially are services that happen outside or take place outside of a licensed residential setting. So shout out to Miss Shawnette for the introduction to all of this. She is absolutely amazing. And so my focus is making powerful, positive impact, right, within my local community. And I realized that in doing so, I can only serve so many people, right? I can only serve, my agency only has so much capacity. And so when I got online, it was more so to help out the the caregiver, the DSP, the direct support professional, if you will. And before that, it was like mompreneurs. And then I realized I don't even resonate with that shit. So it ain't even happening. So I pivoted to helping the caregiver. And from there, it really pivoted to helping men and women who want to make a powerful, positive impact within their local community and do so through care, right? Do so through the cares industry, specifically with licensed assisted living, group home, and community home businesses. What I didn't expect was the demand. And so with that, that's kind of where all of this came from. And it birthed a whole new education company online. And so it has become my passion. I love the work that we do. I love the impact that we're making because at the end of the day, as I was coming in and you were talking about the need, and there's so many people who need this. It's very, very true. But what's really interesting that I want to talk to you guys today about is that it's a different component to it than your traditional residential assisted living. And I want to talk to you guys about how to build wealth through care in 2024 and beyond. And hopefully, will shine light on really the opportunity in the industry and the impact that you can truly make to someone's life, not just from helping them do this or that, right? But truly living a really good quality of life. And I always say every individual we serve, regardless of the population, regardless of the demographic, you really have 5, sometimes 10 people connected to that one individual. And so you're not just impacting one life, you're impacting 5 to 10 attached to that. And you are making powerful, positive impact, and you are building wealth through care. So we're going to talk some numbers today because that's what we do. And we're also going to talk about the impact, the different types of care, and all of that. Okay. Does anybody have any questions up front or anything that they would really, really want to know? Do they want to drop that in the chat so that I can make sure that we hit on those today? Everybody has questions, right? Everybody has questions. So is there any particular order you want me to start in? Do you have any specific questions you want me to start with, or do you want to just let me have free range?
Let you have free range, honey. This is your show tonight.
Okay. Cool, cool,
Ms.
cool.
Sharnetta does have a question she wanted to start out with. Should this business be structured as a not-for-profit or a profit business? And I think that is a really interesting point because we've talked in the past about grants a lot last year. We've spent a lot of time with the grant guru, and that becomes a question of where do we get the monies to be able to actually start this business?
Yeah, such a great question. So let's kick it off with that. When it comes to if you need to be for profit or nonprofit, I like to say it really depends on what your goals are as a business and to consult your CPA. Now, I am a for-profit entity. I also know that you can be nonprofit. Here's the issue that I find when you're a nonprofit entity. You need to be able to write. You need to be really good at writing grants or have a grant writer on your team, right? And if you're going to be hiring a professional grant writer, has anybody attempted to hire a professional grant writer? Has anybody? They're very expensive.
They are.
They're
Yes.
very expensive, and you do not have a guarantee of getting that grant. And oftentimes, there's an upfront fee for the really, really good ones. There's an upfront fee, and then there's also a portion of the funds that you get goes towards them, and it falls under administrative costs, right? So you have to kind of keep that in mind. And then if you're going to actually practice writing for a grant, it takes a certain level of skill. So you're going to need to practice to do that. And then also your approval rate or it's a numbers game, right? So I say don't just sit back and write 3 or 4 grants for the month. You're going to want to write 20 to 40 for the month, right? Because your chances of getting approval or getting selected are really, really low, right? So I want I guess I'm not really answering the question by saying it's your personal preference, but I want you to ask yourself this, like, what is your goal for a nonprofit? Right? What does that do for you? What is your goal for that? Usually when you're starting a nonprofit, it's a very specific tailored goal. And the unfortunate thing is that I have a lot of students who come to me and they have nonprofits. And you know what the issue is? They ain't making no money.
Mm,
They're not making no money. And they are really in the red because nonprofits can be profitable, right? They're still an entity. They still make money, even though they're nonprofit. It's just all funneled and put together in a certain way. And I'll raise my hand to that. I'm not an expert, but I am a for-profit entity, and I am structured with intention, right? And that's the biggest thing. And so you want to consult with your CPA or legal counsel to make sure that you are properly going through your goals for your business, so you are set up correctly. Okay, there's that. On the other hand of being a nonprofit, how many of you guys have seen like the Arc, or what's another one, another bigger agency? Um, they're slipping my mind right now. But in every city and town, there are these big agencies that are nonprofit, but they can be structured that way because they have um, donors already. They are getting state grants and funds, sometimes federal funds in form of a grant. They are getting donations from private organizations. So they are these entities that can support being a nonprofit because they have funds coming in from different angles. And when you're smaller, you don't necessarily have that resource behind you, right? Or that momentum behind you. Does that make sense? Everybody
absolutely.
feel good with that? Okay, cool, cool, cool. All right, let me see what you want to know how to get started. We're going to talk about that. How would you suggest getting capital? Perfect. Okay, we're going to go over some of these things um, today. All right. So part of what I've kind of injected into when I talk about this publicly is I talk about the history of care, right? So when we think about residential assisted living, we focus on the age population, the baby boomers and such who are getting older and they need residential assisted living. Most of them have long-term care insurance or they have great investments and they're paying their way through this, or others may have Medicaid, right? And so the state or the Fed is paying their way through it. That's kind of what we think about. But I want to open up your eyes to other demographics and population with developmental disabilities, behavioral health challenges, mental health challenges and conditions, youth, right? So we're also opening that up. And when you open that up, it goes far beyond just residential assisted living. We have residential assisted living that could be private pay, state funded, or federal funded. We have group homes that may seem very similar to residential assisted living, but the type of group homes I'm talking about, and we'll talk about other types as we progress, are federal funded group homes, right? They're certified group homes. So the Fed is paying us. And to be able to get those Fed funds, we have to become licensed, certified, or both, and enrolled into these programs that nobody knows about. Right. And so we are helping individuals with disabilities or behavioral health challenges gain and keep skills or improve skills, where residential assisted living, we're just helping them with living activities of daily living, etc. Now that's built in to group home services, but you're doing a lot more than just assisted living, right? It's a component of that. So it's more skill based, it's more goal based, it's more person centered and individualized care. And the pay rates between them are drastically different. I'll use my state for an example. For residential assisted living, you're looking between 5,000 $7,000 a month, right? Private pay or Fed fund, state funded, right? And about Fed funded too, about that same area. Well, when you go over to DD or behavioral health, you're looking at 12,000 a
Mm.
month. a month. Okay. We also want to talk about community hub services, which are services that are taking place outside of the licensed residential setting. And you will, if you follow me online anywhere, you'll hear me talk about getting paid to play. This is essentially take an individual or group of individuals into the community and helping them with skills in the community, with not daily living skills. Actually, yeah, daily living skills, because it's not focused on ADLs, right? But community living skills, skills that we take for granted every single day, shopping in the store, interacting with our community members, right? How do you furnish an apartment? How do you actually navigate a store? How do you balance your checkbook? How do you budget? How do you do these things, right? And it's all about integrating with society, right? We do not want anybody to, we don't want anybody to stick out like a sore thumb, right? This is why I don't allow my staff to wear scrubs. They wear everyday clothes like you and me. It is my vehicles, they have no logos on them because it does not need, we don't need to be bringing attention. We need to be doing integration, right? And so when you're looking, and that's just one of the services, getting paid to play, community life skills, right? But there are so many other community hub services that we can provide without even having to have the home, right? So, and that's why I say with or without a property. And even if it is residential assisted living or group home services, you don't necessarily need to own the home. You can lease the home unless your estate requires you to have a fire sprinkler system, and there's no minimum of residents for that, right? Like down in Texas, I'll give you an example. They require you, if you're going to be doing licensed residential assisted living, to have a fire sprinkler system. I don't care if you have one resident. Whereas, I'll use my state as an example, or actually I'll use Michigan as an example. Um, Michigan, you don't need a fire sprinkler system unless you're going over 12, right? If you're going over 12, then you need a fire sprinkler system. If you're under 12, you don't. Here in my state, if you're going 3 or more, you need a fire sprinkler system. 2 or less, you don't, right? So there's these little nuances that will allow you to kind of get into the business with leasing a property. And that's what I did. My first 2 were leased. I didn't have the funds or resources to go out and buy a property. I had scraped together the monies that I had just to get started, because I had to show reserves, right? And that's something else to kind of touch on, is that you do have to show reserves most times. And these are operating expenses. And the question that comes up a lot is, well, where do I get the money to show those reserves? And there, when it comes to financing, there's really a couple of ways, and you guys are all investors here in this group, so I'm sure you're aware of those, but I'll touch on a couple. You either save your coins, right? You stack up your chips and you use your funds. The other way is use other people's money, like the bank's money. You could use that in the sense of like a personal loan. If you could leverage your own good credit that you have, and you can get a personal loan, deposit those funds into the business bank account and show that you have access to capital. You could do the same thing, but in the business name, right? And use your personal to back that up if it's a new business. You could do hard money loans like that. I don't recommend that. You can do business, like business credit cards, and there's a website, I forget what it is, but it allows you to do not a cash advance, because the cash advance, the rates are just ridiculous, but I forget the name of the website, where it basically kind of converts the funds out of the business credit card. I don't necessarily, I wouldn't recommend doing it that way, but you can, right? But I mean, those are really the options. It's either you use your money or you use their money, right? Another question that I get asked a lot is, well, if I want to buy a property, how do I do that? Because if you can't go through a traditional conventional loan and say, hey, I really want to make powerful positive impact and build a business and care and start a licensed residential assisted living home. You just can't do that. The bank will say, no, you can't do that. And so with that, you can be very careful with your words. I used to be a mortgage lender, so I know how to strategically say what you need to say so that
Yeah.
you're not disclosing things that you don't need to disclose. You can do it that way, and I have done it that way, right? You can get an SBA loan, which you will have a lot more requirements and such to show, right? You're going to need to show a lot more. They're a little bit harder on the new operator who has never really done this before, and their numbers, we don't know if they're going to be successful, et cetera, et cetera. So that's a thing. And then have you guys heard of is it DSCR? Have you heard of that?
No.
That lending type? So with a DSCR loan, it requires like no financial proof, right? It's like no financial proof. The rate is between 7 and 8%. It does require 20 to 25% down. But the whole point of this loan is for real estate investors, right? That's kind of what it's there for. And the loans are approved. It's private lending, still the same kind of conventional guidelines, but private lending. So you're not dealing with a bank, right? But they want to make sure that that property is going to cash flow, and it has to cash flow at least 15% over. Not 50, 15%, right? And so when you're looking at the amount of rents you're going to be leasing to your business, it doesn't hit your personal credit or your loan to value, right? Or debt to income. It doesn't hit any of that. It's all solely off the business. And that's a really cool thing. So we've just kind of found out about this loan type, and we've actually been pre-approved because we're looking at doing some other investments and such like that. So I'd love to share this option to others. The thing is that you still have a really high down payment unless you can show, right? Unless you can show that you have history doing this. And even if you do have to come out with that 20 to 25% down, there's nothing preventing you from going out and getting a personal loan to help with the down payment, right? So being creative and getting the structure started. But for me, it goes far beyond that because the buck always starts or stops with the market research. What do I mean by that? Say you're hell bent on starting a residential assisted living home. Say you're hell bent, like, I want a residential assisted living home. I want to serve seniors, and this is what I want to do. But the needs of your market aren't saying that. I really, really challenge people to do their market research before investing heavy in any of it, because it might not be residential assisted living that is the need in your area. It may be for the mental health. It may be for the DD. It may be for transitional living. It may be for youth homes. It may be a variety of different type of things. It may be for rehabilitation or community life skills, which are the same thing. It may be nursing services. Nursing services are always in demand, right? So I don't like people to just come into it and only want to do one thing. I like for them to come in and have an open mind and say, I'm here to serve. I'm here to serve. I'm here to make impact. This is what I want to do. Now, I want to be guided and shown what my community needs, or the community that I want to get started in, so that I can show it fully and I can make impact and income and not start a business that's going to lead me in the red and not the black, because I hear it all the time. I hear it all the time. Any questions on any of that so far?
No, that's really good information to get us started. So, Sharnetta, did that answer your question on kind of how and where are some of the places you can get the starting capital from? She said, absolutely.
Great, great, great. Okay. So let's jump back to the demographics, right? Because I think that you're very welcome. I think that that can bring some clarity, because the first thing that people ask me is like, well, what does that look like serving the DD population? Like, what does that look like serving the individuals with mental health challenges, right? I think our minds automatically go to the worst case scenario with all populations, right? And I will say this, not every population is going to be that picture that you paint in your head. It's not. It's going to be a spectrum. and you get to decide where on that spectrum that you fall, right? I'll use myself as example because I feel like when I talk to people about this stuff, they don't want to feel like they're saying they don't want to deal with a specific person or population. So I'll talk about myself in this example. When I first started, I said, I don't want to deal with any sex offenders.
Mhm.
I don't want to deal with anybody who has aggressive tendencies, like physical aggressive tendencies. Those were the things. I didn't want to deal with anybody who was smearing feces. Been there, done that. I'm not doing that. And I don't want to deal with anybody who is not ambulatory. Those are my things. That was my criteria. But I couldn't get to that criteria, even though it sounds super simple, if I didn't experience it, if I didn't see it, if I didn't witness it, if I didn't know what even to look for, right? So let's pop back over to seniors. You can serve seniors. People think seniors don't have any aggressiveness to them, right? That they, um, not that they're all ambulatory, because they're not, but there's a lot of challenges that can come with seniors, right? Think about the era that they were raised in and think about the color of our skin. That's a big one.
Mhm.
Think about the families who are the decision makers for them, right? There's a lot that goes in with that. And even though that might be your desired population, it might not align with how you want to run your business, right? Think about some of them are not ambulatory, or as they age, may not be ambulatory. Are you going to be able to care for that individual as they age? Or what's your stop line? What's your hard stop? I always say, what's your line in the sand? So I like people to start to think about all of those different things that come with caring for the aged population, along with the other populations, the DD population. Let's talk about that. With the DD population, you may be dealing with somebody who's autistic, right? You may be dealing with somebody who's classified as I even hate that DSM even has this of mental retardation, and I've seen it. And we don't, I mean, that's not a correct term anymore. It's
Mhm.
intellectual disability, right? But they may just have like an unspecified intellectual disability, which I feel like is pieces of many different disabilities. But then you say, okay, well, then you have to know what that individual's capabilities are. Like, what does that look like? Right? You may be dealing with somebody with a component of, they may be autistic and FASD, which is fetal alcohol syndrome. Right? They may be autistic, they may have Down syndrome, and they may have what was the other one I was going to say? I don't want to say oppositional defiant because that's more of a mental health, but they may have other disabilities that go along with it. They may have Prader-Willi syndrome, which is a syndrome that you never, high level, is you never feel full. You never feel full.
Hmm.
Think about that. How do you serve somebody that never feels full? There's no medication for it. Do you have the capacity to deal with that? Right? So there's various different things with Down syndrome, and understanding these different diagnoses, educating yourself and your staff. Can you handle some of these things? Right? And so even with that population or demographic, I should say, they may be ambulatory, they may not be ambulatory. Or can you deal with somebody and provide care? I shouldn't say deal, but provide care for somebody who is bedbound or who's in a wheelchair and who is non-ambulatory. Can you help them live a full life? Or will they be a caged bird? Right? So think about all of these things with individuals who have mental health challenges. And when I say challenges, I truly mean challenges. Do you have the capacity and space for that? Will you be able to train yourself and train your team to be able to handle that? Right? We haven't even talked about the back end of the business. Are y'all ready for that one?
Right.
This is
I
the
mean, I
service
didn't,
component of the business, but then there's also a back end because you have to
right.
run the
Because
business.
the business has to run. But I didn't, going back a moment, I didn't realize there were so many different classifications of demographics. I mean, I mean, even when you think group home and caring for the out, like you broke down within those categories, there are subcategories that
Mhm.
also come with their own set of unique challenges and responsibilities
Absolutely.
required. Wow.
Yes, absolutely. And it's something to take serious. And I think that unfortunately and fortunately, right now, group home is a buzzword, but people don't understand what that truly means. And we'll talk about what's the buzz on the web right now, right? Because it's much different than what I talk about. And I think helping individuals live full lives needs to be the priority to us all. And when we do that, when we put people first in any situation, we are rewarded with whatever we desire that to be, right? We just are, and I believe that's the laws of the universe. And so it just comes with it, but it has to be something that I talk a lot about transparency in the cares industry up front, because people don't understand, like you said, you didn't realize there was all these different types and these demographics, and it's like something to be really aware of, because is it a great business? Yes. And we're going to get into the numbers, honey, in a minute. But it's also something that I want people to literally take seriously, because this is a business to where this isn't a product-based business, right? Or a service-based business, so where, we can make a decision and we can recover from it, right? We can make a bad decision, or like, oh, that didn't work, and we can recover from it, or we learned our lesson that we're going to tweak and change this. This is somebody's life,
Right.
right? And so it needs to be as serious, taken as seriously as a surgeon doing our open heart surgery, because we cannot go back and change somebody's life. What's done is done. And unfortunately, this is why this industry has such a bad rap, right? You don't see any positive stories really in the news about the cares industry with licensed assisted living, group home, and community hub businesses. What do you hear? You hear somebody was neglected and somebody was taken advantage of, and a caregiver did this and a nurse did that, and blah, blah. That's what you hear, right? And so are we on the same level as a doctor? Absolutely. Why is it okay for a doctor's practice to make money and a surgeon to make money, but a care business to not? It makes no sense, right? But I think it's conversations like these and bringing the business to an awareness level such as this, of where we begin to change the narrative. We begin to change the narrative. So let's get into the shmoney money, okay? Unless you guys have any questions on any of that, I would be happy to answer.
I did
Because I
like
know.
pointed out that this is healthcare. I would say this is truly, people always think of healthcare as going to a physician, a primary care provider, but healthcare is an extenuation from birth to death. And we have systems for that. And I think people do just kind of regulate it to this little itty bitty bit of, oh, I went to the doctor, I got my whatever service done, and then I'm done. That's never how it goes. I'm a chronic asthmatic. My asthma doesn't stop just because I came home or I'm on a trip. It's an ongoing thing. I have an autistic brother who is raised and aided by my mother, who provides all his care. She is a caregiver even before she's a mother, because that's how the system is set up. So I think that's a really important part, and that sometimes does get lost, I think, in just the business aspect of it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
No, Latrice is saying, finding the right team. I also want to talk about liability and insurance and all of those things, because those things come to mind when you talk about some of the challenges. And I'm sitting here, even for myself, thinking, is there a place in the industry for someone that has that they want to do good work, right? So they want to be make a powerful impact socially, right? So this is a good business to get into to do that. They have the money for the property that allows you to get the facility. So we check those things off the box. But they don't have the propensity to be the person in there doing the actual work, right? But hiring the team that of wonderful caregivers that do have that, where that is their ministry. How does that all work? Is there a place for people like that, right? And I think I'm people like that, right? I don't think I think I'm talking about myself here. I'm not the go in day to day and provide that level of care, but I'm the hire the best of the best, make sure you're getting the best care possible. I'm getting you the best place to be, right? The safest neighborhood, the facility that allows for all the amenities you need to be successful. And I'm overseeing because I'm a really good overseer, but I'm not going in and doing the thing that makes the magic happen. So we can talk a little bit about that as well.
Yeah, great question. Let's hit on that first, and then we'll pop over to the insurance. Um, we'll pop over there next. And if I get on a rant, just let me know, because sometimes I do that. Um, so when we talk about operator, owner, operator, right? You can you can do it that way, right? You can get the property, you can hire an operator or an administrator that's going to be in there doing the thing, overseeing everything, right? They're going to be pretty much managing that team because they're going to be the hands-on person, right? They're going to be doing a lot of the marketing and all of the operational type of stuff. You can do that. People do it all the time. But what's with that is that it cuts into your profits. And I think people are always on that fence of like, I don't want to do it, but I don't want to pay somebody $75,000, $100,000 a year to do it. Right. And so you have to think of it, you have to pay that person really, really well. Because if they're going to be taking on the brunt of what you, right, to run your business, they know how much you're making. They know how much that business is bringing in, and they're going to want some of that money. And that's fine as long as you're good with it, right? So, for instance, for me, if I was going to bring on a program administrator, I'm probably looking about 85. If I really want a good one, maybe 120,000 a year, right? But even with that, if that person, for me, because I'm Fed funded, if that person decides, well, I see you're making, well over $1 million a year, I want to be paid 300,000 instead of 120,000. And they try to be like, if you don't pay me that, I'm dropping off your certification, which I have seen this happen. You can't bill until you get all of that paperwork unjumbled, your name back on there, or find somebody else. Like I've seen this happen to people where they weren't able to bill for like 2, 3, 4 months, right? Because the person who was their administrator for Fed funded services, I'm isolating that out, told them, oh, I see how much you're making. You're not this little startup anymore. I want to be paid. And this person was getting paid well over $100,000 a year. And they wanted even more because they seen the profits, right? So there's this fine line between greed and operations, right? Greed and their actual role, greed and what they should actually be paid. And I think that that's what happens. And I do think that's why you see a lot of these businesses for sale, because you don't have to go start it yourself. Why are there so many for sale if the revenue is that good? Have you thought about that?
Have not thought about that, but now that's nothing. I'm not going to think about anything else. That's a perfectly good question. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't think that you can't hire anybody, but I always say know the role yourself, right? Know the role yourself. This is not a business where you would want to step totally back and give somebody all control, but I do think it's something to where you can give them control. Like this is their job, they would be overseen, but then you should be involved at some point. Because if you're not, it's very easy to be taken advantage of, and people have the misconception that they can have an operator and then the business is totally passive and then things are falling apart and now their facilities for sale. It doesn't make, I'm like, why are all these facilities for sale? What is that? What does that mean? Just because people don't have a pulse on their business. And at the end of the day, if you're looking for something passive, like completely passive, this isn't it.
It's not at right.
No, you're going to need some level of involvement. And when you're a smaller entity like us, like a smaller agency, you are the brand. So if you're not going to be the brand, your administrator needs to be the brand, or you need to show them how to be because that's how you're going to market, right? You're not a big, what do they say, big box, right? You're not a Brookdale, you're not a this or that. You're a smaller entity. And so you have to market that way. And part of our marketing is me. I'm the brand, right? I'm not the one in there providing the care, but I bring clientele in, right? And they come to Alaska Premier, my agency, because of me. even though I'm not the one providing the care, because I am the brand. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
And so there's an issue with the industries because you have little mom and pops, smaller agencies, right? You have these little agencies that want their profits so bad, they won't hire any staff at all and they become burned out. And then you have the agency that doesn't want anything to do with the care and they just want to be the owner and hire the operator. But these ones always end up for sale. These ones, they can never have the financial freedom that they need. I call it seven-figure freedom. They don't ever have that because they can't live a quality of life that they want because they're too afraid to give up some of their profits to hire a care team. And so there's both ways. I chose to be right in the middle.
Mhm.
So I have a fabulous way of living. I pay my staff well. Um, I feel like I am obtaining seven-figure freedom and I have a pulse on my business and it's just the way it is. And so that's the way I chose like I chose that for myself and I see it a bunch of different ways. Um, and it's just your personal preference on how you want to do that. Does that make sense?
It absolutely does. Thank you so much for that.
Yeah. Okay, so insurance. When you're talking about insurance, uh, not everybody writes for residential assisted living homes. So you're going to need like general liability. Berkshire Hathaway has great liability insurance. And then you're actually going to need like general insurance for your facility. And there's different carriers that will write for you. Picalic is one. I think for adult day programs, I think Next will even write for that, which is interesting. I think they write for daycares too, but there's other, you can go through commercial insurance brokers, you can call people locally, you can get quotes and stuff like that. But you will need to have insurance. You don't need a nurse on staff unless the type of care that you're requiring requires a nurse to be on staff. And when you start working with like behavioral health, right? When you start working with that type of population and demographic, or you need a clinician or you need these other people, then yes, you will have to have those individuals and then they will need to carry the insurance and et cetera, et cetera. So insurances, there's many different types of insurance that you need that are going to encumber everything, if that makes any sense.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Um, there's a question about, let's see, I'm sure it's hard to find a team of people who truly want to help people. Yeah, that's very true. I think the hardest piece about this industry is finding good, reliable staff. It's extremely hard to find people that have your values, um, who can see the mission and the vision the way you do, and can care for the residents the way you do. And I think a lot of the things that you hear in the news are about entities and organizations who the operator or owner has lost a pulse on that entity, on that business, because there's things that should not be happening that are happening. And why is that? Right. And if the owner, the operator, the administrator, whoever you want to say, director, had a pulse on that company, it's either they were just providing shit care or they weren't monitoring that shit care and they didn't
Right.
realize it was happening.
Mhm.
Right.
Right.
So you have these two kind of buckets that people go through. And is it hard? Is this a hard business to operate? It's a harder business to get started once you have it set up the way I teach. It runs smooth as peanut butter, right? But it's getting there and getting through the licensing or the certification or both, that's that journey that people are like, I don't know. But when you talk about the revenue that you can make and the income potential as a whole, it starts to become like, okay, I could do this. This
Mhm.
feels good to me, right? So let's talk about the money. Are y'all ready to roll over there?
Let's
You
talk
guys
about the money.
talk about the money, honey. Okay, so when you're looking at like residential assisted living, like we had talked about it at the beginning, you know, your three buckets, right? You have private pay, you have state funded, not every state has state funded, and you have Fed funded, right? Now, let me just high level say that the Fed funded program, it is Medicaid. So it's a federally funded program that's state governed. Okay. So the state has to abide by the rules of the Fed, right? And the state has to approve each provider. You cannot just say, oh, I want to do this and go right to the Fed, right to CMS Medicaid. You can't, right? You have to get approved through the state and then you go through the Fed. Okay. But when you're talking about residential assisted living, I think that it's easy to say without looking up each individual state, you are indeed around some cases, it's like 3,500 to about 7,500 average, okay, per month. Now, when you're looking at, and that's either state, that's Fed, or that's private, right? So that's kind of encumbering all of them. When you're looking at group home, you were looking at anywhere between, depending, I would say average, probably about 9,000, 12,000, sometimes more, because you're looking at a daily rate of about, I'm gonna give you guys a couple. So you're looking at a daily rate, you could say like down in Arizona is like 400-ish. Tennessee, you're looking between 400 and 700. Michigan, you're looking, these are per day.
Really rates. Wow.
Yeah. In Michigan, you're looking about 217. I've seen all the way up to 700 a day. Here you're looking at about 424. In California, you're looking about 260, right? Per day. These are per day. So when you guys do those calculation and you have like 5 individuals in a home, it's really easy to get to 50, 60, 70, $80,000 a month.
Mhm.
And people's like first thing they go, is that all profit? Like, do I have any expenses? I'm like, well, absolutely you have expenses. But what do those expenses look like? What does that mean? Like how much do you have to pay out? And I'm like, you have to pay out staffing. And then I want you to think about like staffing is the biggest one. And then think about your expenses as if you're running a regular home, residential home with 5 adults in each home. That's what you're looking at, right?
Mhm.
And so you have your typical lease or mortgage, you have your utilities, right? You gotta furnish the home, you have to provide food for the house, keep the house stocked. You have all of these things that kind of go with it. And so that's what I want you to think about as far as expenses. And then you have insurance on top of that, right? So when you look at expenses, that's what it could be. Now, if you're gonna be staff heavy, you are looking around between, I don't know, for one home, probably about 10,000, like max, right? A month. If you have multiple homes, you do that times two or times three or whatever that looks like. Now, if you're doing community hab services, some of these services are making just as much per day as a group home or assisted living.
Hmm.
So you could be making $140 a day for an adult day program, and you could provide services one to many, just like you do in a group home, teaching community life skills, but you're only working with somebody for max 8 hours a day, and you could have 4 or 5 groups going. And it could be a situation where it's a 1 to 8 ratio, one staff for 8 clients, $140 a day. You have 3 groups, right? And so you could either do this in the community if the state allows, or you could do it in like a licensed like adult day setting, right? Like a center setting. So there's so many different options. There's even like care management, which is essential to like a social worker. There's nursing oversight and care management, where you're actually telling the team what to do for the individual who's needing care, right? And writing their plans, etc. There's so many different things. There's meal services, there's environmental and modification, where you're improving somebody's home so that it can be maybe like ADA compliant so they can get around. There are so many different services. I have a training inside of my program called 12 plus types of care, which talks about them and the average rates and how they're typically billed and all of this stuff. And I think it's really interesting that people say, when people are like, well, how do you get to seven figures without having a group home or assisted living? And I'm like, my mentor has a multi-million dollar business. My business is this big compared to hers. And she started solely with community hab. She did that for, I believe, 5 to 6 years before she even added her group homes. And she has 6 group homes.
Wow.
Millions, millions. So it doesn't have to be you. I always say you can start this business the way you want and the way you desire, but let's do that market research to see if your community lines up with that. Because if it does, then great, right? Go for it. Like, make that investment. But if it doesn't, I want you to know that you have other options. And that's why in my program, I don't teach one type of care, right? I don't teach one type of care. I give you, like, here's a menu. Let's learn about them. And then let's see what's the best fit for you. Because I have 5 services. I don't have just one,
Mhm.
right? And so I think there's a beauty of this business to really get started in the way that you want, but also having the open mind to say, I'm going to start with where the community needs me to be, but my heart is about serving, period.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
Um, yeah,
That,
I want to touch on the group home that's being thrown around all over these streets, these interwebs, because I think that's important for your group to kind of understand. Because you'll hear me talk about group home, you hear somebody else talk about group home. You might hear the term licensed or unlicensed or
Mhm.
etc. When people are talking about group homes, they are really saying a boarding home. That's really what they're saying. When they're talking about unlicensed homes or unlicensed group home, they're really talking about a boarding home. When they're saying unlicensed assisted living or personal care home or family home, that doesn't necessarily mean a boarding home. It could mean just that they haven't reached the threshold for that state to get licensed, right? North Carolina, you can have 6 without having to get licensed. But if you don't have the license, you can't get fed funds, right? So there's different nuances to it. But I want to also talk about that unlicensed group home or boarding home that they're talking about. And I want to show the comparison for the income because you can go out, lease a home, furnish the home, call the shelters because that's the clientele you're going to get. You're going to call the shelters, you're going to call, and you're looking at between 200, 600 a month, not a day, a month. Right. So if you're looking for cash flow and if you want like a couple $100 a month, like great, like do that option. Maybe you'll make $2,500 cash
Mhm.
flow a month. Maybe if that's what you're looking for, do that option. But if you are looking to build wealth through care, you want to get licensed, you want to get certified, or you want to do both. I just want to show the comparison. $2,500 a month cash flow versus cash flow of $40,000 a month after expensive for a group home, assisted living, or community hab or agency where you're doing all. It's a very, very different thing, right?
Yeah.
So I have students making $40,000, $50,000, $90,000 a month with a roster of less than 15 clients. You just don't hear about that anywhere, right? So
Yeah.
that's kind of what I have for you guys today. And no, you don't need a degree. Um, there's a starting point for everyone. You can even get started in your own home, right? You don't need to own the property to start, depending on the state and the requirements for the fire sprinkler system. And some services don't even require property at all.
Yeah. So as we wind down, I have 3 questions I think are important.
Yeah.
Just when you give the comparison of license versus not, right? My logical brain says, well, with that disparity in cost, why the heck wouldn't anybody get licensed, right? So that, and so I'm wondering, is that process difficult, lengthy, expensive? So I'd like you to talk about that a little bit. And then I want to talk also about your course, right? I want you to share all of that information with the community so that they can, if they are interested in exploring this wealth building strategy, that they are able to contact you. So I want to talk about that. So if we can talk about the certification and licensure process, that would be really great.
Yeah, I think that's a great question. It's much, much different, right? So when you're going to do like the boarding home route, what people are saying, like the unlicensed, you're literally leasing a home or it's a home you own. You're furnishing the home and you're making phone calls. You are calling the shelters. You are calling, at some cases, DOC. You were calling these places to see if they need housing. You're coming from it as a landlord. That's it. That's all
Okay.
you're doing. Okay. That's all you're doing. You can call rehab centers. You can call, you are solely a landlord. When you're looking at licensed, it is a process, right? Now, let's speak to just residential assisted living. You could probably, and I've seen this happen many times, and it's happened to me. You can be licensed between 45 and 90 days for residential assisted living, traditional residential assisted living, private pay, state funded, right? When you move over to certification, they may require you to do your residential assisted living and certification for either like group home or certified fed funds for assisted living. They will probably require you to do your residential assisted living license. And then once that's approved, then move over to certification, right? Once that's approved, then you go to Medicaid. So there's three approval processes. So it is a bit more lengthy, right? If you were doing community home services, you're going directly through certification and then you're going to Medicaid and getting approved, right? You're getting finalized and enrolled. So it's not necessarily approved. You're getting the enrollment happening so you can bill for all of that, right? It's going to take longer to do that. People don't like regulation.
Mm,
That's the big thing. People don't like regulation, but they want to be paid, but they don't want to be regulated.
right,
You don't get it both ways.
right.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't get it both ways. And with regulation comes you got to run that back end right. You got to make sure you have your ducks in a row. You have to make sure you're answering the call when they say they're coming out, they're coming out. You better have your paperwork in order, right?
Right.
You better have your systems and processes in order, and they can come at any time. I just got finished with 2 audits in 1 year. Like what?
Wow.
Like that's crazy. That's never happened to me before, but I do think it's because I'm a little bit more public now and they're looking into me a little bit more. But 2 audits, 1 year, that's a lot. So that's my answer for that. And what was the other question again?
And then just talking about your course, how people can get
Oh,
in
okay.
contact with you to learn more.
Yeah. So I have a free mini course. You guys can go to startupprovider.com and you can enroll there. It's absolutely free. It's a great 2-day course. And from there, if you want to apply to work with me, there's a button on that screen. You'll also get a series of emails that'll prompt you to apply if you feel called, and then you can apply to work with me inside of the Startup Provider program. Now, I will warn you, this program is robust. It has to be, because I don't want to just show you one option. I want to show you how to build wealth through care in the various facets that you can, right? So the program itself, it's 6 modules and it covers all the way from mindset and focus all the way to license certification, how to set up the walkthrough of the property, how to onboard staff, how to intake your clientele, how to market, how to do all these things. Like it takes you through all of this. And then the main component, the biggest piece of the program is going to be your market research. How do you search for this information? How do you communicate with the state? How do you decipher which service you're going to go through? Or go with? How do you figure out your projections? What does that look like with the rate? How do we know what clientele to go through? How do we break that apart? How do we look at the billables, right? How do we break that apart with the manuals? Um, Understanding the different types of care that are available, because when you're looking at one type of care, say we're looking at Massachusetts, but then somebody else wants to do kind of the similar thing in Florida, there's going to be two different names for the service and there's going to be a different description. But once you learn how to do these things and once you learn how to properly search them, research them, do outreach, you can literally build this business anywhere. Anywhere. And I get questioned a lot of, Ariana, why are you teaching people this and not just making it a franchise? Like, why are you not just making it a franchise? And if people want to jump in, then you get a cut of their business, because it's bigger than that. It's bigger than me, right? It's about building generational wealth and helping people build their businesses. Because I totally could do that. But that's not the model I want to go with. I want people to be able to choose that if they want to start locally and expand, they can. This is your shop, your show, and you get to start the business and care that you want and you desire. I have students in my program. They're like, I'm starting in Texas, but I'm also going up to Michigan, or I have property here and I'm going over there too, because now they have the model to be able to make money wherever.
Right. Wow. This is wonderful. Thank you so much. My brain is moving a mile a minute. I'm thinking about all the different angles, right? So I'm thinking about that person that has the property and may want to lease the property for a premium rate to someone who can't get funded, right? The traditional way. And they start out that way. I'm thinking about all of the ancillary services that you talked about that is not the direct care stuff, right? That I personally would struggle with. And all of the ways that there are to get into this business. And so startupprovider.com is where we all need to be going for the mini course. This is absolutely phenomenal. I'm always intrigued, amazed, and grateful for people who find their thing and then decide to teach it to others. And so thank you for that. Thank you so much for that, because you could have kept this gem to yourself and made billions of dollars, right? And never shared it with anyone. So thank you very much for that, because what you're sharing and the level of detail you just gave us in an hour, I can only imagine what the course is like. Like real talk. Like I feel like I know something. Like I can intelligently talk about this, like, and act like I know a little something after just an hour. And so the robust nature of the course and really preparing people for success, I have no doubt that
Yes.
the word on the street was right. You are not to be played with in these streets. You hear me? And so thank you so much for that, Ariana. I really, really appreciate it. Let's see if
You're
there are any
very welcome.
questions, because we want to be respectful of your time. Latrice says, see, this is an option you can have with the house when you decide. Exactly, girl. Yes.
She's already there, Latrice. She's there. Let's come back.
There.
She's already kind of, let's buy a house. She's already there. I can tell you the thoughts that have gone through her mind, because I could see it on her face when she's doing her little things. And I'm like, she's going to make us buy a house somewhere. Mm-hmm.
That is, I mean, so for the community, my sister has gone through Ariana's course and is working with her. And she's she's been talking about this for, I think, the last almost year. And I've been paying attention, but not really paying attention, right? Like paying attention. And I know this is like a big deal. It's important. It's a lot of work. Like when she says this is intense, it is. But we've never sat down and talked about the dollars and cents and the, and all of that stuff. And so just hearing that and all of the other ways you can get into the business, because I can tell you, my mind was stuck on assisted living. I wasn't thinking about any of the other stuff you talked here about. And I think that changes the nature of the conversation when you look at it holistically.
Oh, definitely.
It really does.
Oh yeah. It's and I haven't even
optionality to it. I think that's what happens. You just myopically focus on that one thing. And it truly is a plethora of services that need to be offered for a whole lot of different demographics. And you have to, again, I think that's when you said the market research is important, because if you're starting locally, you may think, oh, this is great, but what if that's not in your market? Right. What if that's not what your market needs to be serviced with? And you have a whole lot that needs to be serviced, but you didn't even think that that was something that you could offer them.
Yeah.
That part.
I think about all the people who are still making plates out of the kitchen, trying to find how to fit that market. This is a line of business. They need meals. Like, so I
Mhm.
think about that, right? I think about, we got like so many places here where people are still trying, they don't have the money for the food truck yet. So they're still selling the meals and trying to
Yep.
get up the food truck money. They need customers, right? Because now we're not in office buildings anymore where they used to bring the plates and
Yeah, that's
market for
true.
lunchtime, right? So we're not there
Mhm.
anymore. They can't get a customer base. This is
There's
perfect
there's
even for them.
there's meals, there's transportation, there's employment services. I mean, it goes on and on. And here's one thing that we'll wrap up with employment services is when I say employment services, people think staffing agency. And I'm like, no, 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 no. No, I'm gonna blow you away. I'm gonna blow you away. Hold tight. So it's not employment, it's not staffing agency. What it is helping individuals find, keep, and retain jobs, right? Where are we right now in this country? We are in a place where employers, small businesses are lacking employees,
Yep.
right? And so, what better way to help individuals who needed to find jobs, bridging the gap? And get this, you get paid for helping that person. What do I mean by that? So, you help an individual, let's use a house of bread. We're going to help an individual, say Johnny, he has Down syndrome. We're going to help him find a job. We're going to help him find this job at House of Bread because we have built a relationship with that owner, which is a franchisee owner, and Johnny is going to be the dishwasher, right? But House of Bread owner says, well, I don't have the staff to really support Johnny with being a dishwasher. You say, don't worry about that. I'm going to provide the staff. So you provide your staff to help Johnny work 3 days a week at the House of Bread, washing dishes, where you're overseeing him and making sure Johnny, goes through his routine and you're helping Johnny out. Johnny's doing most of the work, right? But then you're billing the Fed for your staff being there, providing the supports to Johnny, and Johnny's getting paid by House of Bread. So you're getting paid, like, let's say, I'll use my state for an example. You're getting paid like $47, $49 an hour, and you're paying your team, your employee, $22, $25 an hour. Well, that's for one individual. Well, let's say we have a one-to-many going on at the House of Bread. We have Johnny and we have Johnny's three friends. So now we have four individuals with one team member,
Hmm.
and each one of those individuals are at $47 an hour. What does that look like? And we're still paying our team member. He's dealing with four individuals. So
Maybe you give them 30 then.
let's
Yeah,
say we give him 30. What
yeah.
does that look like? What does that look like? Now, let's even expand it from there. Let's say Johnny and his three friends, they weren't actually his friends, they were his housemates. And those housemates, Johnny and his three housemates, lived in your group home. So
Mm.
now, so now, as an agency, you're not only just billing for Johnny and his three housemates at the group home, but you're also billing employment services. And let's take it a step further than that and say, well, Johnny and his friends have 2 days off or 3 days off out of the week where they can do community life skills, which I say getting paid to play. So now we're supporting Johnny and the three residents with a quality of life in the group home, retaining, gaining skills. We're helping them live quality of life by having meaningful employment, which they enjoy doing. And we're teaching them life skills in the community, right? With that same one to many aspect, right? One staff for 3 to 4 individuals. So now you're billing for 3 services with the same 3 to 4 clientele. And that's
If
what you
if that
call
if
service stacking.
if that mic wasn't so nice, you could just drop it right now. Because that was the ultimate mic drop. You hear me?
Yeah.
You had me
Yeah.
I'm a 30-year HR professional. So you had me at employment services. I was like, oh, I could do that.
Mhm.
Right? You had me there. But the stacking method, whoa.
Yep.
Girl.
It's powerful. And that's how you build wealth through care, my friends. So let's go.
Let's do it. Let's get it. Startupprovider.com.
Yep,
Don't play,
that's what it
guys.
is. It's totally free. fill it out. I encourage you to go check it out. You will get a hint of my teaching style as you did today. I have a ton of free resources. I have a podcast, a YouTube channel, TikTok, all of that. Scroll, look at the information. I don't want anybody trading dollars for education. For me, if you don't truly know that this is what you want to do, and it's not going to be easy. So if you come in, if you decide to apply to work with us and we review your application and we approve you, because every application we review, and you come into the program and you go, oh my gosh, it has all these requirements and all this stuff, just know that there are many different types of care and you are in competition with nobody. You can take your time, you can drill right through it, totally up to you. But it's a game changer. And if you really want to break into the cares industry, I don't think there's another course on the program or course on the planet that is as robust and going to give you the options and the support that we give you. So that's what it's all about over here at Seven Figure Impact.
Well, very good. Well, we know if someone comes up with another course, there is not another Ariana Jay out there. So thank you, my dear, for the work that you're doing. We appreciate you. We will be praising you from the rooftops. We might even make this one. Typically, we reserve some of the Monday sessions for member only sessions, but we may stream you live in the Facebook group because this is powerful, and as many people as possible need to hear about what you've talked about tonight. So Absolutely. Thank you so very much. Thank you. I know how busy you are.
You're very welcome.
Running this empire. The fact that you accepted this offer from little old us makes my heart warm. So thank you so very, very much, sis. I appreciate you, and peace and blessings, and congratulations for the $1 billion you're getting ready to hit. You're gonna have to change your slogan. It's gonna be some more figures added in.
Oh yes. I receive all of it. Let it flow. Let it flow.
Thank you so very much.
Thank you to the community. Thank you guys in the community for joining us. Happy New Year, guys. We are back. We are not coming to play this year. We are not coming to play at all. I hope you guys join us tomorrow night for our Battle on Black pitch. We have a tech solution for overseas payments. So that's a company that is coming tomorrow. Thank you guys so very, very, very much. And I'm going to try to pop in. You know, I'm going to starting my adventure on Wednesday to China. I'm going to try to pop in every so many days and give you guys updates on what I'm doing. Talisha may have to remind me to pop in because I'm so bad at popping in and going live.
I will.
2024, I got to do better. I know. But thank you guys so much. We love you to the community. Thank you guys for joining us tonight. Talisha, I love you, my dear. And Shanetta said, I can't wait to see what the 10K project does for 2024. Well, you just saw the beginning, right?
This is just the kickoff.
Beginning of it. This is the key. We coming out the gate hard.
This is the jump off right here.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Ariana. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Bye.